Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar on managing multi-generational teams. My name is Grzegorz Galusek, and I'll be your moderator for this session. We are really glad that you could join us because this topic is very timely, and I also think it's quite essential. And for the first time in history, and Aneta is our expert today. Aneta, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have up to 5 generations working side by side at one workplace. So
you are very right. Yes.
Okay. So we have a situation that each generation brings its own values, communication styles, expectations, strengths, problems. So while this diversity can be quite powerful, it can also present unique challenges for leaders and managers. And so exactly today's session is designed to help us navigate those challenges and more importantly, think how we can tap into the opportunities that such a multi-generational setup in our MFIs, in our companies offer. This will be an interactive session, so we very much encourage you to participate as fully as possible. Please ask questions, share insight, and engage in as much as possible. You can post your question via the chat function, but you can also make yourself visible and share your insight or ask a question. The goal is not just to learn, but to walk away with real-world tools that you can start using right away after the webinar. The whole session will last 2 hours. It is recorded, and that's one of the requirements of the sponsor, and that is the European Commission. We'll also share the presentations with you, so no worries, you will get it after the webinar. Before we dive in, I would like to introduce our today's expert who will be leading the session, Aneta Montano. Aneta is training professional with over 25 years of leadership experience, supporting global organizations in building high-performing, multicultural and multi-generational teams. Aneta led organizations in both USA and Poland. She has delivered leadership and development programs for prominent clients, including Santander, Consumer Bank, British American Tobacco, Herbalife, ING Bank, Citibank, and DKMS. So she has a wealth of experience, and so I'd like to welcome her wholeheartedly, and we are all sure we'll get a fantastic and inspiring session. Let me say a few words about the sponsor of this event. The SIFTA program, it's a huge investment program sponsored by the EU. It provides various financial instruments in a way of guarantees. However, it also has provides technical assistance and advisory opportunities, and especially for social finance and social enterprise development. And SIFTA is just this advisory body of InvestEU. Let's move to the next slide. It is SIFTA works in the EU, both microfinance institutions and social enterprise providers that operate in the EU can have access to it. The access is free of charge. We encourage all of you to sign up. SIFTA has been extended till the end of the year, so you still stand a chance of being accepted to the program. This program comprises of two blocks. One block is about the advisory services, and this is technical assistance that can be provided to your MFIs, to your MFI directly. Also, institutions that specialize in social enterprise development can gain access to SIFTA. So that's one block, advisory services. The other one is rating and assessment. This is a very important part of the SIFTA program, as it will allow institutions that participate in it to get certified on the European Code of Good Conduct, which is a standard for excellent standard for microfinance institutions. Very importantly, once your institution gets certified, you can have access to EU funding on preferential terms. So also you can take advantage of this opportunity within the SIFTA program. The advisory part, the first leg, can actually help you review your systems to check to see if your institution is compliant. So before the rater or the evaluator comes to provide an official statement if your institution is compliant, you have a chance to actually improve your systems to match the standard, and that can be provided by the advisory part. Also, quite importantly, the advisory part is about sharing best practices, so not just technical assistance, which amounts to 15 days of free of charge advisory on any topic that is suitable for your institution, but also the program runs peer-to-peer visits, study visits, exchange visits, also webinars such as this one that provide access to learning for institutions not just within the EU but also outside the EU, even globally. So let's move to the next slide. I already mentioned that only the institutions that are part of the EU can are eligible for this program. So we can maybe move to the next slide. Who are the implementers of the program? So the advisory part is implemented by 4 institutions. The lead institution is the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management, and while the supporting institutions that offer advisory services are the Microfinance Center, which is a Poland-based network of microfinance institutions in Europe and Central Asia. Also, the European Microfinance Network, as well as PBA, a network of social banks. So that's the block that provides advisory services, while the assessment services are provided by Microfinanza Rating, which is an Italian-based institution that specializes in providing assessments of microfinance institutions globally. And let's move to the next slide. So you can still sign up, as I mentioned. It's very easy. You can write an email to EIB. You can see the EIB address on the slide. You can simply request access to the program, and if you are an MFI, you will, depending whether you are an MFI or social enterprise finance provider, you will get an appropriate form that you need to fill out, send back, and EIB will respond to you. It may take time for them to respond, as they have received a lot of requests. So So if you're really willing to participate in the program, please send your application sooner rather than later. As I mentioned, the program has been extended till the end of 2025, but there are also discussions about the new phase of the project that would expand into 2006 and 2007, but that is not certain at all. EU has different priorities now. We are nonetheless hopeful that this important program will be extended for another two years. Okay, let's move to the next slide. A very important piece of institutions for the institutions that already have undergone the microfinance assessment or are planning to do it and have become familiar with the requirements of the Code of Good Conduct. As you all know, this code is quite an extensive piece, some sort of a semi-regulation for microfinance. It has been designed by the European Commission a number of years ago, and the time has come to revise this code. So if you have had experience with it and would like to provide any feedback to the European Commission, you can do so. You can scan the QR code that is visible here. You will also get, as I mentioned, you will also receive the presentation after the webinar, so you will have access to this code. You don't have to do that now, but it's a very important opportunity when you can actually express your feelings about the code. The whole idea is to make it a little bit less of a regulation, more of a standard type of requirement that would confirm that institutions stick to responsible financial practices, responsible and ethical, and yes, they provide services to micro enterprises or social enterprises in a responsible way. So please use this opportunity and send your feedback directly to the European Commission. The revision of the Code of Conduct will take place in the second half of the year, and we will obviously let you know about the final result of this exercise. Okay. So I think we're quite ready to move on with the webinar. But before I pass the mic over to Aneta, I wanted to ask her whether Aneta, could you share a moment where you actually personally witnessed generational type of misunderstanding at work, and maybe if you could give us a few tips how it was resolved?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Aneta, and thank you, Grzegorz, for this question. I think that it's not only my experience, and I am an Xer. So I am actually coming from the generation that has an extraordinary ability to bridge between the new generations that already were, let's say, born into the technology era. We even think that they were born with a cell phone in their hands. And the previous generation, for example, the boomers and the silver generation, that were growing up in a completely different situation, the post-war development, the baby boom, and then, of course, the Xers who came and who were the generation who, as first, really had to be very independent. And here in Poland, we were wearing keys on our on a small rope, and we were coming back from school. We had to make sure that we warm up our lunches because our parents were working really hard. So yes, because of those differences, because of how we were growing up and how we like to manage ourselves and how we like to be managed by our leaders, I have witnessed a million times these kind of clashes. I don't want to call it conflicts because I think that that's too big of a word. But the one that comes to mind, it's a clash between a very young person from a generation Z, who, of course, is taking notes and using everything, using the modern technology for learning. And he was always in the meeting taking notes on his iPad, and it was always very short notes. His leader was a person who was coming from my generation and was an avid fan of taking notes in the meetings that were like later on little minutes sent to everyone, and they had to be more thorough and really have a lot of information. And because he delegated that task to different people around the table, one day this young man from Generation Z was tasked to take the minutes from the meeting. And of course, he did it on his iPad and, in a very short words and in shorthand. And later on, he shared it on Slack. And that was not the preferred way of sharing the notes by the manager because he liked it in an email as an attachment with a proper form. And I remember the discussion within that institution, what should we do? Should we, being doing the things the old way and sending emails which only take so much time to read, or should we really take short notes, very pointed, and send them by Slack with information that it's optional for you to read, and it will not take a lot of time to people who are not interested. So this is just one of the pictures that you can imagine that is pointing us into three very important elements that we are dealing with when we're talking about generational differences. And one element is really preferred form of communication and preferred style of receiving information, also such as feedback. But I'm coming back to you, Grzegorz, because I don't know whether you wanted me to carry on or whether you really wanted to ask another question to the audience.
That's super. Please carry on. Over to you, Aneta.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So maybe I will share the presentation. We will follow the slides. I think it may be a little bit easier for us to stay.
A great idea. Yeah.
To stay together. So, okay, now I think you can see the full presentation. Okay. So as I was talking to you, I remembered that I told you, of course, what generation I am from, and I am very curious which generations we have represented here today. But before we get into talking about generations and before we disclose which generation we present here and which generations we have the pleasure of working, I just want to make one really short introduction about what we will work on today. Because sometimes the generational difference are really smaller, and we are looking into a cliche of, one generation having avocado sandwich and the other generation really understanding and writing long emails when it's not necessary. But these cliches and these stereotypes, if we are thinking about them, if we use them in the workplace, they tend to be really hurtful. They do not bring anything good. So I would propose that today we move away from the stereotypes and that we get to know people, not generations, that we always remember that we work with single individuals, that we do not work with the whole generation in our organization. And the reason why we are meeting today, it's precisely to create a better team. It's to achieve better results through understanding that everyone is expressing the values and the needs in the workplace in a different way. But we all have same needs after all. being accepted, having authority, being respected, having psychological safety, being led fairly, and in a way that you can be innovative, make mistakes, and be engaged. So all generations in that respect are very, very similar. How are we going to do this? Today, I propose that we move along the few points that I have prepared for you. We will do a generation poll at the beginning. So we will see which generations are represented and also which generations you tend to manage. Also, we will look, maybe you will be able to share, or maybe you will write for us here in the chat box your biggest generational challenge that you have faced, or maybe you are facing right now within your organization. Later, we will look into generations. And I have prepared personas, like fake people who really represent generations. And we're going to talk about them, how they work, what do they like, what they don't like, how do they like to be managed, and how we can actually, as managers, manage them well so they feel comfortable in our workplaces. Then we will do a short study to see where the friction lies. Where are the touch points that create the biggest friction in the organization, and where generations tend to clash? And also, of course, with that, we're going to look at strategies and some tools that you can use to mitigate that, to have it available immediately to work with different generations. So moving on, I have a first question for you. Are you okay with this? Do you have any questions? Do you have any suggestions? If you do, please write it in the box, or you can of course speak up. I don't mind to be disturbed or distracted, so you don't really need to raise your hand. If you feel like this is a good moment for you to speak up, please do.
That sounds like a perfect plan. Thanks, Aneta.
All right, thank you very much. And let's familiarize ourselves with the generations that are represented here. We have prepared a short poll for you, and I would like you, please, to participate because it's fun to see who is here today. So your first question is, which generation do you identify as? Okay, we have one millennial. All right, we have Generation X. I am an Xer as well. So it looks like right now we have only two generations that are represented here, which is the generation which I call the bridge generation, which is Generation X, and the millennial generation, which paved the way for the Generation Z or Z to be so well versed into technology. Fantastic.
I am a boomer, and I cannot. Unfortunately, I could not. And
okay, all right.
Yeah,
so we have boomers, we have Xers, and millennials. Great. Can we go to the next question, please? So which generations do you manage in your organization? Or if you don't manage, which generations do you cooperate with in your organization? You can choose all or only one, of course, if that's appropriate. Millennials, boomers, wow, exactly. This is what I was hoping for. Look at that. Even though we represent only 3 generations here, we work with 4 generations and sometimes even with 5 generations, even with the generation that was before the boomer, which is called silver generation. They are not so much represented in the workplace, but they are very active still. So thank you very much. So you do manage all different generations. Let's go to the next question. So this is still answer to our poll number 2, which generations do we manage? And now we will move on to the next question. And if we can't, if we have a technical problem, that's okay as well. Let me know. We will move on without the poll.
Yeah, we have a problem.
Okay, that's fine. That's no problem. We will move on from the poll. But if it's possible, I would like you to think right now about what is your biggest challenge. Since you are managing different generations or cooperating with different generations, what is your biggest challenge working with different organizations? Having this in the backdrop will allow me to speak more into your experience and to maybe give you more answers. So if you would like to either share by speaking or writing on the chat box, that would be fantastic. What do you think at this point, or what do you experience is your largest challenge in working with different generations? I am very curious. Is anyone willing to share?
We have one response. You have
Yes.
to read it. From response from Elena Farini, who said that her biggest challenge is with Generation Z, and it's lack of commitment. They're too emotional when things go tough in work.
Yes, exactly. Emotional and not committed. Okay.
So lack of commitment, too emotional when things go too tough in work.
I've heard that before.
Uh-huh.
You can say that, yes, that's part of the characteristic of Generation Z. But that's the way they are. They have been growing up in households and in situations where they were cared for, they were nurtured. It was okay to express their fears and their emotions. So they expect that it's okay to express it at work. They want leaders to be also nurturing leaders, to be servant leaders. And the non-commitment, yes, they do have a completely different approach to work, because work has to be fun. Work has to be developing them. Work has to serve them rather than they serve the work. The work has to have a very strong social element for Generation Z. And also, it is not meant to be forever. Work is supposed to be something that you stay in for 2 to 3 years, and then you move on, you go to a bigger challenge. And when we understand this perspective, it's easier for us to accept that our role as leaders and managers for this generation is slightly different. But thank you for that. We will look into Generation Z in a moment.
Veronica Buga said that her biggest challenges would be to identify the specific needs of each generation and ensure the needs are met without creating conflict between generations. So that's one response. And there's another one from Malkhas. In addition to this, Generation Z employees do not like long-term objectives and focus. That's a very They prefer very quick wins and targets. So we have
absolutely.
Also, I also wanted to ask, because you mentioned servant leadership, and I recall we had in the past a special webinar with you as expert of it, but maybe not everyone who participates in today's webinar had a chance to participate in the one on servant leadership. Maybe you could explain, just what it means. You mentioned that people from Generation Z actually expect to have servant leadership. So maybe if you could, if you could say something about that, that would be
yes, absolutely. I do have a few slides about it, and I will talk a little bit, but this is a good moment to mention it. I have prepared for you a table, which is, with a little bit of fun, looking at the different generations. And if you look at this, I know I made a note here for you that the last three generations, millennials, Generation Z, and the upcoming Generation Alpha, like to be managed by servant leaders. Now, servant leadership is not new. It was developed in 1970s as an idea by Robert Greenleaf. He was working for an American corporation, like a telecommunication company. And he, as the first person really in American corporate culture, noticed that people who are served by their companies, who are being developed, whose needs are being met, that they become very engaged and very productive employees. And it doesn't matter whether they are of a, whether they are female, because at that time, 50s, 60s, females were not really promoted, or whether they are Black people who also were not promoted to office jobs, they only were doing manual labor. But he kind of started changing the American scene and the thinking about leadership. And the main approach to servant leadership today is really to understand that every single person in the organization, really, despite the generation, will have slightly different needs. They will be learning at a different tempo. They will have also different personal objectives. Not everybody wants to be a leader. Some people want to become a very good expert. And it is our job as leaders to serve them, to be the ones who create an environment conducive to their development, to feeling good, to having psychological safety. And it's done mainly by being humble, by being engaged as a leader, and by being such a leader who understand that in times of crisis, they can be authoritarian, they can take leadership, but in times when the team is producing and it's doing well, they basically become the bottom of the organization. They only support the organization from the bottom. They are not on the top. And in some situations, they can be on the side of the organization, of the team, to be there if they are asked. So they are not micromanaging, they're available, they are very conscientious. In a way, they are transformative because they are looking at creating the innovation and commitment from within the team. But they leave space for people. And one of the most important saying by Robert Greenleaf was, serve first and then people first. So you, as a leader who serve, it is your job to see the needs and to develop the conducive environment. And as people first, meaning that you really see the people, see their value, you see the people rather than results. Your investment is first in the people, and then the people who become happy in the organization, who create a good and effective team, start producing fantastic results because they become engaged and they become very, very productive that way. So coming back to where we were about our different generations, I want to make sure that we also know who they are and how they exactly work, because you have experienced your challenge, and thank you for sharing them, because hopefully today you will also get some answers how to look at those challenges and how to work with those challenges, mainly because you can adjust your leadership style and you can make a change. We cannot change a person, but we can change how we respond. We can change how we communicate, how we ask questions, how we give feedback. So that is a very important thing to remember, that no matter what we say, how many times we write an email, we will not change another human being unless the human being wants to change. But where we have all the power and all the possibility is to make a change within ourselves and the way we approach certain problems or certain people. So looking at the generations, Look at that. The first generation is the silver generation. And I just want to make a comment that those dates where they were born, they really come from American market. I decided that it's best to use the American market because I know you come also from different countries. And from each country, the generation end and limit will be slightly different. It may be 2 or 3 or even sometimes 5-year difference, but it really is very similar across the globe how the generations are shaped by time. So the silver generation is the generation that really the important social marker for them was the World War II. Everything after they were born were still about the recovery from the World War II, and the parents maybe were lost due to or grandparents due to the war. They were the generation who was still listening to the long play, black LP records, and they were conditioned by leaders who were very controlling. This generation is really working very well in a hierarchy where the leader is the center and the top of the organization is the leader who gives orders. Baby boomers that were coming as the baby boom post-war, where the countries were recovering from the war, where the businesses were growing, organizations were growing. Baby boomers experienced the moon landing. And that was an amazing event. That was the advancement of technology that we have never seen before. They were listening to their music from the cassette tapes. I don't know if you Zs or millennials who are present here remember what to do when your cassette tape got pulled. Do you know what to do when your cassette tape gets pulled? I know Grzegorz knows.
Yes, it was a disaster.
Yeah, you had to take a pen or a pencil
Exactly.
and put in the little wheel and turn it many times until the tape got straight. That's how that's how boomers were listening to their music. And they didn't like hierarchy so much in the same way as the silver generation. They believe that there is a leader in the organization and that the leader can be directing, but they have to leave space for thinking. They have to leave the space for me, who is part of the organization, to be able to think on my own, not only follow the barking orders, as silver generation was very prepared to do. And then we have Xers. Xers who came with the stock market crash in 87. They had their Walkmans, so they were already a little bit more mobile with their music. And they said, okay, we love leadership, but the leadership cannot be this person who is on the top of the organization. We want the leader to be the center from whom everything flows. This is the era of delegation. Generation X is the era of delegation. The leader is in the center and delegates tasks, delegates duties. So the duty is delegated and it comes back to the leader. Again, delegated, come back to the leader. And leader is the one that connects the whole organization. That's how Generation X was being managed. And they felt like it was a huge progress because the leader was not the one who was directing the whole organization in a, let's say, single-mindedly. It was already a delegation process where I could introduce my ideas. Then we have millennials that came in the 1980, 1984, 1985. Millennials were listening their music from iPods. iPod had a possibility to keep 2,000 songs. 2,000 songs. Can you imagine? 2,000 songs rather than a cassette tape of 60 or 90 minutes? That was amazing. But millennials said, okay, this is great what you've done, Generation X, and we are very grateful. But we still don't want to have a leader who is constantly delegating and checking on us and taking the tasks. How did we do? We want a leader who is only going to guide us. We want a leader who will be slightly more disconnected. A leader who is going to be supporting us because we are smart, we are capable, and we have good ideas. So we want a leader who is going to only give us the environment that is allowing us to really tap into our potential. And then the generation Z came. The generation came with iPhone and Spotify and iPads and everything electronic. The first generation for whom this is their native language. Human contact has to be more or less taught and learned. And all kinds of communication courses and classes with human to human are very needed in the generation because they have a very short attention span because they communicate on, communicators, they use a lot of emojis, they use a lot of memes. For them, the communication is really based on a picture or very short, 2, 3, 4 words. And sometimes those words even become abbreviated way of expressing how they feel. This generation, of course, is very creative. This is the generation that wants to make a difference in the world. They want to make their mark. They also want to be noticed. They want to be seen. But on the other hand, they also want to do things that they want to do. So they only want to be engaged in projects that are interesting, that are developmental, where they feel like they can be a bit more capable than only doing what is said in the job description. And they like to be managed in a completely different way than the previous generations. They said, okay, no, leader, it's not in the center. For us, leader has to be on the side. A leader that's only going to be asked by me when I need him or her. I want to create a team. I want to be part of a team or a project of collaboration where I can contribute, where I can feel that I am important, that my voice really counts. And I look into the leader only if I run into problem. I look into the leader only if I need something else, maybe more training. I look into the leader for immediate, instantaneous feedback, because this generation really wants feedback all the time. And I like to create a group of people with whom I cooperate and create. Now, we also have a generation Alpha, which is not yet part of our workforce, but I do want to say a few words about this generation, and then we go back a little bit deeper into boomers, Xers, millennials, and Zs. Generation Alpha is the generation which is now about 12 years old at the oldest. So they are not yet part of the workforce. But we already know about them that they are very gamified generation. They love everything which is based on games, earning points, earning rewards, being in this, let's say, micro win situation. They want to have the micro wins. Everything has to be sort of Duolingo style of learning. You do well, you get a badge. You accomplish a task, you get something, you get a point. So managing alphas and learning will have to be gamified in a way, will have to become fun, will have to be based on really gaining the badges and the points. We also know that the alphas are not content consumers so much like we are, for example, the Xers and millennials, but they are content creators. They're the ones who will be creating a lot of content, and they will be adding a lot of information for us to use. They are motivated by intrinsic motivation, by internal motivation. They are not driven by money, for example, like boomers were driven and are driven by financial rewards, because they are now concerned about retirement. So money is important and savings are important for them. For the new generation coming up, money will not be important because they will already inherit a lot from millennials and the Zs. First generations, for example, in our part of the world, and I'm speaking to you from Warsaw, where the parents actually had something, owned something that they could give to their children. My generation in Poland, Xers, could not really inherit a lot from our parents who were boomers, because Poland was completely destroyed in the war. So boomers were the first who tried to, to really make up and gain something, and money was important for them. But for Alpha, no, because the previous 3 generations already had time to accumulate some wealth. They will be driven by their own motivation. And everything will have to be now, and it will have to be fast, and it will have to be very relevant to what is important. They can be very disengaged by any kind of wait, any waiting long periods for advancement, for career. That will be really demotivating for them. We also know that they have they like to be connected in communities, even in large group and communities online, but in real life they will have very few friends. We also know that they will be motivated by things that mean something. Maybe they are good for the world, or maybe they are good for the society. So they have a completely different worldview, and their needs as employees will be very different. But let's go back and let's look at particular people, and maybe you will find that the person that I'm describing is actually part of your organization, because I do want to give you a little bit more information about how to work with people that represent particular generations.
Aneta, if I could quickly comment and maybe ask a question, could we
Absolutely, yes.
It's an interesting trend when you see from the development from the silver generation up to alpha, the one of de-hierarchization. So
absolutely.
So we have with silver generation, we have a situation of being fully controlled, full almost church-style type of hierarchy. Just
yes.
to almost a kind of a democratic community-style structure where everyone is equal. So there's no so this controlling element is almost totally disappearing. And the second observation I have is the position of the leader in within Generation Z and Alpha. Just within Generation Z, the position of the leader is almost excluded, almost from the team. While with Alpha there is a kind of a recognition of the probably the recognition of the value that the leader may bring, but his position nonetheless is still within as equal in the community of workers.
Yes.
So these are just my two tiny comments.
Right. Yes. Thank you for noticing that, Grzegorz. And absolutely, for Alpha generation, leader is just co-creator. And what's even more interesting when we now look at the younger generations, both the Generation Z and future Generation Alpha, we notice that they do not accept or like their leaders to, for example, earn a lot more than team members. There is no acceptance in Generation Z for leaders to have extra privileges, I don't know, special parking places or special treatment. The privileges that were so well received and accepted by baby boomer generation, even by Generation X, nowadays, that is a turn off for the young people. If the leader gets a better parking spot, or if the leader has, outstanding power or outstanding privileges given by organization. The leader should be primus inter pares. That means one among us, but first among us, but still among us. He or she is one of us. We can understand that he or she has the leadership role, but has to become one of us as an inspirer, as a person who paves the way to make it easier for us. But they, they should be coming to work by public transport or by bicycle, being one of us, and not having showing off the power and the privilege. That's a complete turnoff for these two generations. Whereas for my generation, it was normal. For the previous generation, it was normal. So the position of the leader, how they accept the leadership, how they work with their leadership is completely different. So looking at this perspective, I only want to make a final comment, and then we will go to some practical tools that hopefully will be useful for you. Is this: if I am a Gen X leader, I, Aneta, have to become flexible. It is me who has to learn to lead by guiding, to lead by empowering, and to lead by directing, depending with which generation I am working. I cannot use my preferred leadership style, the one that I always thought I had, and that was my most preferred and most cherished style of leadership. Of course, in situation of stress, in situation of uncertainty, you will always revert to your most innate leadership style because that's who you are. But in situation when you are in managing teams that are cross-generational, it is you who has to make this adjustment. It is you who has to understand that you have to step to the side, that you have to step to the top, that you have to be part of in a different way. It is difficult and it's challenging for leaders, but that's what is now a need and expectation of the younger generations in our workplaces. Do we have any questions or any comments, any observations? Maybe you want to share something.
Are there any questions? Seems to be no questions. You can.
Okay.
Just a reminder, you can put your question into the chat box, or you can also make yourself visible and share your view, or ask their question then.
Okay, so so maybe you will recognize this employee. Her name is Maria, and Maria is a loan officer. Maria likes to talk on the phone a lot with the people, and she's loud when she talks. She's trusted by many clients. Really, many clients love her. And also she will value authority. She also likes to be respected for her experience and for what she brings into organizations. She's incentivized by money, and she thinks there is a thick line between personal and professional life. She doesn't really make friends at work. She is a good employee because she has been employed for over 20 years in the same organization. She can really easily solve conflict because she knows how to conduct a dialogue. What is her work style? She's loyal, she's dedicated, and she's goal-oriented. She prefers face-to-face communications and structured hierarchy. She values security, prestige, and financial motivations. How do you manage a person like that? How do you manage Maria? What motivates them? Maria is motivated by ability to make a lasting impact, by being recognized for her loyalty and for her service. She wants to be seen as an expert and a mentor. And she wants to be respected for the experience that she brings to the organizations. Now, how do we use this, how Maria is, to benefit us as the organization? We can, of course, give Maria legacy-based roles. She can become a mentor. She can become project leader, long-term project leaders. She can become part of succession planning in the organization because she knows people. She talks to people. So she can be good with preparing people for new roles as well in the organization. Maria needs to be publicly recognized during events, during meetings. Maria likes to be featured in newsletters, and she also likes to see her picture in maybe even on the wall as Employee of the Month. Maria can be invited to cross-functional teams as an advisor, as an expert. You can also ask Maria to review with you new policies, new programs, to see what she thinks about it from her perspective and from her experience. And Maria likes to be addressed more formally. She will read every email. She will be very dedicated, and she will always show respect to the hierarchy. So with Maria, you can be directive. You can simply give her tasks and expect that she will fulfill them, that she will complete them, that she will really make sure that those tasks are done and that they are done on time. Do you have a Maria in your organization? If you have a boomer, then you probably have a Maria in your organization. That person would like to work and be managed in this way that I just described to you. Let's look at Generation X. Let's meet Tom. Tom is a team leader, and Tom is really goal-oriented. He pushes people for results. He likes to get things done. He's not very sweet, but he communicates quite clearly. He is also believing that people are equal on the team. He doesn't pay more attention. He doesn't have favorites. He's very fair in this respect. He has a very big sense of obligation and responsibility, both to the team and to the organization. He's simply the doer. He is the one who delivers results. He believes in sandwich feedback. Do you remember sandwich feedback? Say something nice, then deliver the not so nice, and then close with something nice. He wants to be rewarded immediately for results. And he feels that work and life balance is very important for him, and he knows how to do it. What motivates Tom? He wants to be free to choose how to get the work done. If you trust me with this position, trust me that I will get it done. He likes to work with clear goals, clear objectives, and personal space to execute them. He likes to keep a healthy work-life balance. It annoys him that somebody has to check on him many times, for example. And he's very skilled. He had opportunity through his career to build a lot of skills. And it was important for him to be skilled. And he doesn't like micromanagers. How to use Tom to the advantage of your organization? Let him work independently. Tell him, this is the goal, and I trust that you will find the best way to do it. I don't need to manage you. I trust you. I know you will do it very well. Respect their time. If they leave at 5 p.m., don't ask them, is your job done? Have you finished? They leave, because they will feel responsible for delivering the results. They like concise meetings. The communication is professional and on target. There is not too much fluff. There is not too much discussion. He is very focused. He likes career development opportunities. And he likes them without holding hands. That means, let me choose what I need, let me choose what I like. And he still prefers to communicate by email. He is able to use the Slack or other communicators, but his primary focus and primary communication will be email. So he will be a very good person to bridge the communication between the older and the younger generation. He would be a very good person to be a mentor to the younger generation in terms of relationships and feedbacks and, let's say, people relationship. And the younger generation can be used in reverse mentoring with Tom to provide him more knowledge about technology. Millennials. There are many of you who are this generation. So if I am saying something that maybe you would like to expand on or add because this is how you feel this generation is, feel free. I would like you to meet Annie. Annie is an analyst. She wants to work in an environment that will praise her for her capabilities. She wants to receive feedback quite often, but she also wants to know that she's noticed and that her leader trusts her, even with very difficult tasks. Annie wants to understand why things are done a certain way in the organization, and she asks those questions. Why are we doing it this way? Can it be done a different way? She's very authentic in communication, and she's fast in communication, and she believes that feedback both ways between leaders and team members is a must. She's also sympathetic. She's sensitive, so sometimes negative feedback that it's delivered to her, it's hard received by her. She needs to be in a good mood to receive it well. And if it's given to her when she's not prepared, she will really take it very emotionally. She has tattoos. She likes to ornament her body this way, just like 40% of all millennials. And she likes to climb the company ladder. She is really looking into promotion and recognition. How does she work? She's mission-driven work. Her work has to have a meaning for her. That's why she asks the question, why are we doing it? Does it make sense? Can we do it better? Who benefits from this? She looks into continuous learning and development, but not the lengthy all-day sessions, but more of a learning bites. Shorter webinars, podcasts, shorter versions of learning. She likes to have flexible schedule. It's not that she works from 9 to 5 and keeps her balance this way. She wants to work flexible hours and have hybrid options. Maybe she wants to work one day from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. and then next morning from 4 a.m. to 12 because she has something interesting happening in her life in the afternoon. She likes informal conversations and informal feedbacks. How can we use Maria's strengths to better our organizations? We definitely can work with Maria to ask her for feedback to leaders, to tell us how we can improve our organization, what is not working, where does she sees weaknesses within the organization or the process. And she will tell us in a very honest and authentic way. A boomer may not be able to do this because they value the hierarchy and the leadership in a different way. An Xer may or may not, because they also feel that there is a hierarchical leader. I just do my job. I want to do it well. I am quite capable of doing it. But this generation millennials will be honest with the feedback, and they can be very sharply critical, which can make our organizations better. They can be used to share their experience. For example, if a millennial is very good at something, they have strong capabilities, they can create a session on that to teach others in organization, maybe a webinar, maybe a coaching session, maybe a discussion session. They can be very well used in cross-function and cross-knowledge projects. Millennials are people who know a lot about everything. Sometimes they feel that they have in-depth knowledge about something, but because they are still young, they may not have it, just like the boomers or Xers. But they will definitely have more knowledge about everything. They will have knowledge from different segments of life, different experiences that they can bring into those teams. So they are very valuable that way because they often see things differently and they are happy to share their perspective. And they really love instant real-time feedback. So they can be the ones who can be used in the role of critics. You tell us, you are in this job, in this project to tell us, how do we do? Be the one who constantly gives us feedback, who keeps us on track, who keeps us shaped. So that's where millennials bring a lot of strength. And of course, they are very good in technology because they were growing up with technology and they were using technology from very young age. So all the Slacks, all the WhatsApps, all the social media, for them, it's very natural. They can be always tasked with developing this knowledge within the organization. And Gen Z. Gen Z, I would like for you to meet Jan. Jan is an IT specialist, and he wants leaders to support him, to support his goals within the organization. He wants to progress very quickly, and he wants to become the team leader for the IT team. He wants this organization to work for him very well. That means the organization has to provide him with the right training, with the right remuneration, with the right leadership, with the right space to grow as a person. And also, this job has to be fun. It has to be fast. It has to help him to develop personal relationship with friends. He also believes that any job can be very creative, and he can be very creative in his job. He can contribute. He can change the world. He can make this place a lot better, moving along into the new, from the old into the new. He knows that challenges will come, but he's willing to take the challenges to grow. But he knows that if he needs, he can ask his leader to step in and help him. He knows he will not be judged. He wants to be free to make mistakes and talk about them and not to be judged for mistakes. Take every mistake only as a learning opportunity. He wants to have feedback from the leader as an emoji or, just a one word or a meme, something fun to make the work environment very pleasant and upbeat for him. He's really motivated by transparent and honest leadership. A leader that tells him, I don't know, but you know. A leader that tells him, I'm sorry, this is how it is. He wants to be part of a diverse and inclusive teams. He values diversity. He values different teams. He also values the ideas of climate protection. He's very engaged in different things outside of his work. But he knows that also career is very important for him because he knew and he saw what happened in COVID. So he is going to change jobs, but he's going to stick in one for about 2 to 3 years just to make sure that he can gain experience and then go to the next job with more experience and gain financially as well. How can we work with a person like this to enhance our organization? Of course, this person can be creating a very fast workspace, a fast change. That person will be an accepting person of a fast change and taking us into different technological possibilities. There will be unifying people, promoting diversity. They could engage us into, for example, things outside of work. Maybe this person is working in a dog shelter, or maybe they are collecting money for people who are cancer patients. Maybe we can be engaged through that person as an organization with some aid or humanitarian work or some other things that are interesting to Generation Z. Generation Z expects check-ins and coaching as a leadership style. So that means that they can also coach others. They can become reversed coaches for older generations in the aspects and areas that they are very good at and qualified at. They like to build their portfolio of skills, you know, to look good on LinkedIn and to be able to present their accomplishments in a way that will be desirable by future employers. They do not make very attached employees, but they make employees who develop organizations. They develop organizations because of the fact that they are very candid and that they are engaged in uniting people, and they want to work on projects which are fast-paced, and they are not afraid of change. So you met 4 people with whom you are meeting in your organizations the most often. We looked at what motivates them and how they like to be managed. But these strategies were single strategies for a particular generation. I would like to now move on and talk to you about strategies that we can use to bring the generations together, how to manage them as one team rather than people who are different generations.
And if I could interrupt, because we have
Sure.
a request
Yes.
of more of a technical nature, but I just don't want to ignore it. Would it be possible to add Maria's summary to the slides so that we can more easily make the connection with the employee type and how we should approach them? I'm not sure whether it's about that, some sort of a comparison table between these. Veronica, maybe you would like to explain in more detail what you meant by your request.
I have a handout. I have something that I can provide in addition to slides. There's no problem. I will provide the additional materials.
Very good, very good.
So
okay.
Then you can.
And Veronica, has this answered your question? Okay, Veronica response is great.
Okay. I will of course provide that. No problem. So I told you before that it's you, my dear leader, who has to change, who has to be flexible, because they will not change. It's us leaders who have to be more flexible with different generations. But of course, we are also human and we also have our limits. You know, there's only so much we can learn and so quickly we can adapt to requirements and needs of other people. We can, of course, try and we should try, but there are some practices and some strategies that you can easily use that will make managing multi-generational teams a little bit more manageable and a little bit easier. And some of those I already mentioned as I was talking about different generations, but I would like to summarize them and show them why these particular strategies, in my opinion, work very well in multi-generational teams. So, number 1, always leverage the generational strengths. Now, as you know now, which generation is good at what? So boomers are good at following orders. Boomers are very loyal. 2, Xers, they are the doers. If you give them a task, give them freedom and they will deliver because they are very responsible. They had to be very responsible from being a child. When they need, they will stay over time and they will do it because it has to be done. When you are talking about millennials are very good at managing independent projects. They understand technology. They are already very skilled people. They can be absolutely the ones who can take upon themselves things that are very difficult within the organization because they still know how to build relationship with people and how to build on technology. And then you have the Zs. They are the people who are very creative, very sensitive. They're engaged in a lot of projects outside of work. Work has to be meaningful. It has to have a purpose for them. They are very native in technology, but they want to see the world changed somehow for better. So they have the heart in the right place. They communicate with the world slightly differently than we do, but they are really cool people, Generation Z. They really kind of bring the idea of let's use technology to make this fun, to make it fast, to make it good. But on the other hand, they also want to be noticed, to be praised, to be quickly given feedback. So leverage these strengths, use them in different ways in your organizations. Customize feedback and recognition, and that is a key because every single person in the organization wants to be recognized, wants to be seen, wants to be valued, but they want it done in a different way. As I told you, Generation X is the master of the sandwich feedback. Now, sandwich feedback will not work with millennials and it will not work with Generation Z at all. First of all, because it's too long, and secondly, because it's not on time. So customizing feedback. With boomers, formal recognition, money, certificates, pins, I don't know, things like that. Pens, rewards. With Xers, it could be just private and very direct. Well done. I know I could count on you. You always deliver. You never failed me. I trust you. I trust in your abilities. With millennials, kind of weekly check-ins. How are you doing? What do you need from me? If there is a problem, use sensitive language. Don't tell them, I need to give you feedback. Use a language that says, when you are ready, I'm ready to offer you my perspective. That's the way you invite feedback with millennials. You just don't go them and tell them, this is the feedback that I want to give them. Give them time, ask when they are ready, and then offer them your perspective. Similar with Zs, they want instant feedback. It's like, emoji feedback. Think about it. Instantaneous heart, instantaneous crying face, or instantaneous word that you deliver to them. It works for them via apps and emojis. You don't have to walk over to a Generation Z and say, well done, I trust you, I know that you are it's just too much for them. Of course, you can do it, but you can also, you can also wave them at them. You can also send them a little heart. You can be in a very short communication with them. Now, this being said, again, this is a certain stereotype. Now, if you don't know what feedback they want, ask. I will provide you in the materials with a feedback kind of check sheet, which you can use in your organization. And it's very simple. There's just tick, tick, tick. You can ask every person in the team to tell you how they prefer to receive the feedback. And you will know from this point on how to do it. Now, general rules you know, but now you can take it to a very personal level with every person through this the feedback check sheet that you will receive. Another thing is offering flexible and layered learning. And what do I mean by flexible and layered learning? When I was growing up, and this is, of course, because that's how the older generations always start their story. When I was learning, during my time, it was this way. And that's when the millennials and the Zs are starting to roll their eyes. Oh, okay, again, they go with their story. But really, when we were being taught leadership, we were going to 2-day, 3-day courses. The learning was lengthy and very engaging on the intellectual level. Now, Zs do not have the patience to sit 3 days in a classroom and learn about Ryan and Dietschy's self-determination theory on something or some other theory. They want bites. They want pieces that they can take and immediately use. So when you design training, when you design learning for your multi-generational team, do it exactly in layers. Have a video, also have an article, maybe make a short podcast, maybe make an app if possible, so then they can answer questions and see how they've done on the learning. Maybe make an optional PDF printout, optional possibility to download a presentation for our generations. And then maybe do a live with someone for the younger generations who like more interactive and quick answers. So to design learning now, it has to be very different. Did you know that millennials value learning and the development very, very much? For millennials, it is one of the key elements that keeps them loyal to an employer. According to Gallup, up to 87% of millennials see this development opportunity as essential to their job. If this element is missing, they are also most likely to be looking for another opportunity or for another challenge. So let's go to encouraging mentoring and reverse mentoring. I was talking to you about the mentoring, which is when the older in experience, doesn't have to be in age, but older inexperienced person mentors the person who has less experience. But also reverse mentoring is becoming extremely popular in organizations. For example, General Electric, it's a very big American corporation, started to use reverse mentoring in the early 2000s. Already they started using reverse mentoring when the tech seniors were actually mentored by the tech juniors. And that really pushed them into a new area of developing technological solutions. So one group can teach, I don't know, how to solve conflicts, how to maybe be more patient with realization and planning how to get into your particular goal. And the younger generation can coach and train the other generations how to use Slacks, how to set up calendar notifications, how to use even Word and Excel in a more efficient way, how to use different things, even chatbots, even AI, to make your work easier and faster. We can also encourage psychological safety. And psychological safety is necessary in today's team for everyone, not only for the younger, more sensitive generations that you told me that they were emotional, but for all generations. Psychological safety simply means that everyone is important. We make a group contract. And I really encourage you to do this, to have a meeting with your multi-generational team and tell them, listen, I want our team to feel, everyone on the team, to have a voice, to feel heard and to feel noticed. Let's talk about it as a team, how we want to work together. Give me your ideas. Every idea is welcome. How should I manage you? What do you need from me? Tell me. All ideas are welcome. And spend, maybe an hour brainstorming on 2 or 3 questions that you may be asking. How do we want to work together? How do we want to communicate? How do we want feedback? How do I need to manage you? And then what group generates, then you give them back for voting. Okay, let's vote now. Is this going to work best for us? Is this, or this, discuss it. This is going to work for us. And then you create a document which you can put on email, on Slack, on WhatsApp for everyone to read, which is our team contract. And this team contract is really our rules for our team, how we want to be together as a team, above generations, above differences, above even company culture sometimes, but of course, integrating the important values of your organization. It really works wonders when you take time to create such a contract. And contract is for tough times. You never sign a contract when you think things are going to go well. Because it's for the tough times, that means that actually you can use it and go back to the contract when things go not so well. Mix analog and digital communication. That's yet another strategy. And as I told you, you have to be communicating in different spaces. Slack, one-on-one, emails, be really putting this communication in as many possible ways as possible. And remember the principle of the STD theory, that every person needs autonomy, competence, and relatedness. What does this really mean? It means that autonomy is for me to feel that I can contribute and also that I am important. And competence, it's meaning to give me tasks where I can be developed, where I can grow, or where I can show off my expertise. And relatedness, we all need to know that we have a person that we can speak with, whether it's another team member or whether it's my leader. Autonomy, competence, and relatedness. If you are able to cater to these needs, then every single person in the organization will function a little bit better. And of course, building team rituals and cross-generational lines. What can it be? It can be a Wednesday morning coffee. We come at 9 o'clock to the office, we have coffee together, I don't know, in the office, in the conference room or in the kitchen. But we do not talk about work. Maybe our Wednesday ritual is to talk about life. How are you? How is your dog? How are your children? Maybe we take an hour or 30 minutes on Wednesday morning to have a check-in, one with another. Maybe another team ritual is that we create space for people to bring maybe once a month into our workplace their hobbies. Maybe a person can teach you how to tango, or maybe they can teach you about mindfulness, or maybe about something which is very technical, maybe a new app that they are now learning. Give people space just to bring what drives them, what's important to them outside of work. Another team ritual may be celebrations. What do we celebrate? Do we celebrate birthdays together, or do we celebrate big wins or small wins? Some companies are celebrating failures. They have a failure celebration to normalize mistakes. So for example, what they do is they have Monday, whatever session, you can fill in the blank here. Monday failure session, maybe that's not the best name, but Monday Black session or Monday zero session, whatever name you give. And people talk about mistakes and the learning from those mistakes to everyone in the team. Because if it happened to me, it's possible that it will happen to you. But if I already tell you and I share a solution, you will be so much better for it. And by normalizing failure and mistakes, people feel more psychologically safe. They feel more at ease to share those situations. So all of those are very good strategies to manage multinational teams. Now, do you have any questions, any comments? Maybe you do more things and you would like to share some of your experiences and your strategies. I'll be very, very happy to hear what else do you do to make a multi-generational team successful. And I'll take a sip of water while you are hopefully speaking.
Yeah, I quite like this idea of contract, quasi contract. Some sort of a consensus-seeking exercise in terms of what works for just any particular multi-generational team member. And I was thinking that probably many of us, many of the participants have witnessed situations of conflict. So having actually some sort of a documented piece where you can say, listen, but we have established certain rules for working together, I think is a great way of just quickly solving a conflict. But yes, if any of you guys, if any of you dear participants have any other experiences working with multi-generational teams, what works, what doesn't work, please share them with us. I think it's a good moment now. And you can
absolutely,
or you can make yourself visible and share your experience.
And nothing is too small. Maybe even there's a phrase that you use or a sentence that works, or maybe you have a routine that, in your opinion, works. Please share. The more you share, the more learning you will take out from this webinar.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elena Farini. I'm working for an MFI based in Greece, and I'm a head of the operational team. So
nice to meet you, Anna.
Nice to meet you
all. Thank you, Aneta, for a very well-designed webinar.
Thank you.
And actually, I have a multi-generational team, mostly from from Millennium and Generation Z. I'm a Generation X. And as you are analyzing the profile of Generation Z profile, I recognize myself. I'm not that sweet sometimes. I'm very strict.
Yes.
And this is a problem when I'm communicating and try to manage my team. As a ritual that I'm following is every Monday morning, we have our staff meeting. And I'm trying to have like a 10, 15 minutes conversation of what we did during weekend, something interesting, something that gave us pleasure, something funny, in order to not to get to the work things all of right away. One of my biggest challenges is when I'm trying to give my feedback to employees from Generation Z and Millennials, and try to say, look, you're not following the instruction. It's very important to follow the manuals. All these bureaucratical things that usually this generation don't like. So I have a problem how to communicate, not to be so strict, so just judgmental. So this for me it's a big time problem currently.
Yeah, it's a very practical type of
Yes,
question
yes.
situation.
I
Aneta.
love the idea that you spend time with them talking about what's important to them, which is life outside of work, that they can bring it to work and tell you this is what I've done and this is what I'm enjoying. That's great, Elena, and it's really well done. As to your feedback, because I'm an Xer, I'm not so sweet either. And, we are just buy the book, quickly get it done, deliver, and next task and next thing. And organizations really love Xers because we are really productive and we really are doers. But actually, with the feedback to the younger generation, and I'm talking about my experience and what I have learned, it's they have to be ready to receive it. So first of all, I never go and tell them, okay, this is what I have to say about it. What I do is I say this: I noticed that you have been working with this situation or with this client or with this project, and I have some thoughts about it. If you are ready or when you are ready to talk about it, let me know so I can share my point of view. So given time to think about what it is that I may be interested in sharing with them about that. Because then they may start thinking, okay, what have I done or what I haven't done? For them, auto-reflection is very important. They prefer to have time to think about themselves, what they are doing, how they are doing, rather than you telling them. So when they tell you, okay, now I'm ready to talk, and you don't have to make it very formal. You can go with them to the coffee machine and have that feedback, while sipping coffee in the kitchen. Then you can say, this is just a question that I had because how did it go for you? How would you rate yourself in this situation and in this project? Out of 10, what would you give yourself? Okay, a 10. Why a 10? 7. Why a 10? Well, maybe because I didn't follow the manual. A 5. Okay, why a 5? And then a question. So I observed that maybe this manual was not followed 100%. What could you do differently next time to make sure that it's followed? So you can give yourself a 10. Mm-hmm. That would be a more millennial and a Z feedback conversation. That will be much more acceptable for them than you telling them straightforward Xer style, this is not being done. Thank you very much. Do it better next time. Use this idea of auto-reflection. How do they feel? What they have done? How would they rate yourself? And then you can offer your perspective as well. But also allow them time to know you want to talk to them. Mm-hmm. Don't just go and say, this is what I have to say. Tell them, I have a perspective about what happened, about the situation. When you are ready to talk, come get me. Mm-hmm. And they learn that they can come, that you don't have to go, they can come talk to you. So that also creates less distance and more trust at work.
Okay. And one thing that I would like to add is that sometimes I feel that I'm between the millennials and Generation Z, and then I have the boomers that they say, yes, look, your team doesn't follow the guidelines. You have to do something, and yes, they are very strict on me. And then I have yes, to completely change my approach. Yes. So this is a difficult issue.
Yes, but you know what? Xers are uniquely qualified to be the bridge. Because Xers are the bridge. They understand the need for hierarchy for the boomers because they come from the, orders world. And the millennials that say, okay, fine, they are leaders, great, but they are really one of us. They co-create, they're just assisting us. They cannot give us orders. If we don't like them, we leave, we go to a different organization. The boomers don't always see that the millennials or Zs are not so very loyal, but we deliver results. So I understand that that's a unique challenge for any Xer. And I think that here you are more of an umbrella, sort of the one who protects your team from the boomers and from their very rigid and hierarchical view of the world. You can take it because you understand it, but then you have to process it and give it to the millennials and the Xers in a more acceptable way. So you are the umbrella protecting your team from the hardships of dealing with boomers. And it has to stay with you. Unfortunately, it has to stay where it is. That is with you.
Okay, yeah. And one last thing, what should I say to employees from millenniums and generation that they usually want to climb the professional ladder very quickly?
Absolutely, yes. Mm-hmm.
How can I deal with it? Because they think that they deserve it very quickly and not in a state that they haven't accomplished so many things that they can deserve like a promotion.
Yes. Yes, and we would say during our times you had to work for your promotion. Now it's absolutely different. Well, companies deal with this spoken and very visible need of millennials and Zs different way. Some ways that they deal it is the following. One is they engage them in different projects that they feel that are developmental for them, where they get new skills. So they become a leader or a member of a project which is outside of their normal work scope and capacity. Secondly, you can use that person who comes to you and says, I want to be promoted, I want to be advanced, to plan with you their own succession, their own planning. Okay, you do. Come to me. Let's look at it. What you need to accomplish to be able to go to the next level. So then we put accomplishments that are needed. We're not saying no. We're not saying when. We're saying, okay, great. I like it. I support you. But to go to the next level, you need this skill. And it may take you a year or 2 years or 6 months to accomplish all of that. It's really on you. But that's the requirement. And engage them in the process of building, so they know tick, tick, done, next, okay? Because if you tell them, no, it's about time, that doesn't mean anything for them. Why? Time. But it's not about time. It's really about skills and knowledge that you have to gain to get there. So specify for them what they need to have and how you're going to check it that they have it. So then you can promote them. And they may notice, oh, I don't have it yet. Oh, it's not time yet because I don't have that. But it's easier for them to comprehend that they are still missing something, that there's still a skill or knowledge gap before they can move on. And a third way, and I'm sorry I'm saying this, I know this is recorded, but I know it's not going to go outside of the organization, is actually to let them fail at something very important. So they understand that they are not ready. Sometimes there is no other way, but let them feel through a controlled failure that will not break them, but will show them you are not ready for it yet, but I'm here to support you. Now you know why you failed. Now we can, work with these skills. We can give you what you want. We don't see it as a failure. We see it simply as knowledge now, where we need to invest more time and money into you so you can be promoted. So these are probably the 3 ways that quickly come to my mind, how you can manage that expectation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Very good.
You're welcome. Any more questions or personal comments? I have prepared. Yes.
May I share my let's say experience and also the question?
Absolutely,
Two moments,
yes.
2 comments that I would like to share. One is I think it's important to make differentiation when we have, let's say, when we need this leadership and communication strategy with the individual and with the team of individuals, including the same persons. Based on my experience, people react and respond absolutely differently when you have the one-to-one, let's say, communication or these relations. But when they are a member of the teams and they have the, let's say, team objectives and so on, so their style and model is also different. So question is if it is valid observation, should we use a different type of the leadership model or communication with the same person when they are like individuals, when we have with them individual task, and the second when we have the group, let's say team tasks. This is one my comment and question. And second, just to not to forget, the same is I think a difference between the task level. So when we have the business as usual routines, people also react and respond differently when they are the part of the project, when they are involved in the short-term project or some other, let's say, non-routine projects. So when they have the strict deadlines and time pressure, the more than, let's say, average level tasks, so they are out of their comfort zones. Again, the question, if this is the valid, let's say, observation, should we also use a different type of the leadership and communication while managing or leading these two different situations? Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for those two questions. To give you an answer, I would like to use slides that come next. I have prepared for you a case study, which I will not do with you today because we don't have time, but this case study is, as you see here, and I will give you also, I will type up quickly some notes for you as to resolutions and options, how you could deal with the situation so you have more knowledge. But I do want to go into servant leadership, because you asked first about the communication should be different one-on-one and in the team. Well, when you are thinking about leadership today, I think one word comes to my mind the most often, it's authenticity. So if you look into leadership, people expect an authentic leader, authenticity and being yourself. And I think that leader has to be himself or herself, no matter whether they speak with the individual or with the group. However, when we speak with the individual, and it doesn't matter whether that's our employee or our best friend or our mother or our wife, we always kind of take under consideration the second person in the conversation, their capabilities. You know, we know what triggers them. We know to what they react the best. We know which communication or which form of communication is the most accessible for them. So when you know the person that you speak with, you will always tend to adjust how you communicate to that particular person. And it's not only a work-related situation. You do this when you talk to your friends, your mother, your wife. You don't speak the same way to your wife as to your mother, or to your partner, or to your child. You adjust this communication to the person that you are communicating with. Now, when you talk to the team, that's when you are yourself. You are the leader of the team. And if you have a contract with the team, and the team told you, we are all millennials, but we love hierarchical leader. We want our leader to come and tell us, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then we know what to do, and it's clear for us. That's how you communicate to the team, because they told you as a team, this will be acceptable for us as a team. And then when you talk individually with the people, you adjust to their needs. Yes. So the answer is yes, the communication will be always different. Now, it doesn't mean that you pretend that you become someone else, that you are not authentic. You still have to be accountable, balanced, trustworthy, and a leader who believes in humility in the team. Otherwise, the people may not follow you, right? So serving people with humility, for example, means that acknowledge that you don't have all the answers. Acknowledge that you don't know things best, that they may know better. That's being having humility in front of a team and in front of individual. You may go and say, I'm sorry, I've done wrong. Or you may have to do the same in front of the team. Also, when you encourage learning across generations, you can say, I don't know, but somebody from different generation may know better. I am not really versed or skilled in this. When you build trust in your communication in the team, you do it through, for example, admitting mistakes, allowing them to admit also their mistakes without fear, building psychological safety that we're talking about, enhancing autonomy. That means that you trust the people to do their job. And you communicate it. I trust you. I don't need to micromanage you. I trust you. If there is a mistake, okay, I allow it may happen, but I trust that you will try your best and you will do the best that you possibly can. Keeping the balance, right? Keeping the involvement diverse, keeping the work-life balance, not putting pressure on the Zs and the millennials, because the more you put, the more they're going to kind of go forward. You can put more pressure onto the X generation for timelines, for deadlines, for delivery. They can take it. They will not take it wrong. Managing also conflict effectively, that's part of the communication style. It will be different if it's a one-on-one conflict, and it will be different when it's conflict with the whole team, but given the same treatment and consideration to all the people, regardless their differences and their likenesses. And then the accountability of the leader comes also with setting clear expectations. You have to set clear expectations both to individuals and to the whole team. Both the team and the individual has to know what's expected of them and how you're going to follow through, how you're going to grade them or rate them, or what's going to happen next. And constant accountability through encouraging development. So you as a leader need to show that you are willing to be flexible, to be changing, to be learning, to become a better leader for the team or for the individual, and you expect the same from them. So it comes, many things come back to us. I always take leaders. When I hear from people who come to me for leadership development, and I hear things like, oh, my team is, and put an adjective here, lazy, not good, whatever, I'm always asking, put a mirror in front of you first. You. It's you. Because you as a leader, and looking at the servant leadership practices, you have to serve first. And you have to put people first, and you have to be human. You have to believe in humility, and you have to lead by example as a leader. So there's a lot of responsibility on us. And yes, we need to be flexible and adjustable and learning. We need to be learning. But there's one other thing which is not on the slides, and we have 5 minutes, so I'm kind of going through it very quickly. We must be curious. You cannot assume that you know what the person needs or wants only because they come from a certain generation. If you are just curious about who Aneta is, or who Grzegorz is, or who Elena is, or who Malkaz is, I can ask questions. I can ask you, listen, Malkaz, I have never worked with you in a team. How would be best if I needed to deliver feedback to you? What would be the best form? How would you like me to go back with feedback for you? If I'm curious about you, what you need, what you like, how you like to work, then we develop the trust and the relationship. So I can do it individually with you, and then I can do it with the whole team as a contract alternatively, right? So we have an understanding. So it is on us being curious and putting people first and serving them. It's on us.
And
I probably answered your question in a very long way. I'm sorry.
And Aneta, we have actually one more question that came through the chat box. Maybe we could
Yes.
address it before the end of the webinar.
Yes.
So Lucia is asking, Lucia is curious to hear your thoughts on something she has noticed. Some Generation Z colleagues seem less inclined to take on additional responsibilities or leadership roles. Would you have any tips on how to handle this or how to better motivate them?
Yes, thank you. Not everyone has to be a leader, and not everybody wants to take a lot of responsibility, especially the younger generations. Xers, boomers, they knew there is a leader and it was great. It gave power, it gave privileges. So we really wanted to be leaders. Sometimes organizations make huge mistakes by pushing people to become leaders where they don't really want to. They are excellent experts. And when you put them in leadership position, all of a sudden they are not so excellent, or they are not managing very well, or it's overwhelming for them. It's stressful for them. When people communicate to you, I don't want it, it's because they don't want it, or they are not ready for it. My suggestion would be to have, maybe coaching discussion, leadership coaching discussion with them, to see if the don't want it comes from I don't want it because I simply want to come to work, do my job, and live my life outside of work. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to take more responsibility. Or is it because I don't feel properly prepared? And if I am not properly prepared, what is it that I feel that is missing? And also, maybe I don't want to take the responsibility because I don't like to be judged. I don't want to fail. Maybe I have fear of failure. Maybe someone gave me very poor feedback before and I am not prepared to receive it again. So you have to understand what is causing the answer, why the person doesn't want, or they tell you, I don't want this more responsibility. You can do it alone, or you can use outside somebody like a coach to speak with this person to see what's happening. Sometimes it can be a very trivial thing that they think of themselves that I am not good enough. And there has to be a developmental process. And sometimes it's because they are really paralyzed by failure. They will not be able to live with themselves if they don't do sometimes, as well as they expect. So they prefer not to do it so they don't fail. There are different things and different reasons that we sometimes don't understand. But if you want this person to go on and succeed, that's where you need to give them a little bit of, insights and maybe coaching and maybe understanding. Any more questions, guys? 1 more minute.
No more questions. 1 more minute left. How do you want to use it?
Well, I wanted to do an exit poll, but
Okay.
we will probably we can do it very quickly, just for you to see whether you operate as an Xer, millennial, Z, or a boomer. It doesn't matter who you are from, but let's do the exit poll, and then you will have a final answer. You feel that you are from this generation, but maybe you operate as a person coming from a different generation. So the first question is, as a team member requests to work remotely 4 days a week, what do you do? Choose A, B, C, or D. When a team member requests to work remotely 4 days a week, how do you react?
You either ask them to meet in person to explain, check if productivity will be affected,
Yes.
prove it, and ask how it supports their work-life balance, suggest a hybrid model, and ask how they'll engage. Just choose one.
Okay. So we have some more answers coming. we don't need to see exactly how we are answering. You are answering for yourself. Remember whether you answered A, B, C, or D to the first question.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next question. Now you are giving someone feedback. How do you prefer to give feedback? Choose A, formal meeting with written feedback. B, a quick email with bullet points. C, a coffee chat with strengths and next steps. D, a short voice note or emoji-based summary.
Is it Aneta, is it after your webinar or is it before it?
Before.
Okay.
Before webinar. How do you like to give feedback? And remember again, how did you answer? Did you answer A, B, C, or D? Okay, so we have answers. We can go to question number 3. And question number 3, when leading a multi-generational team, your biggest worry is A, lack of respect for seniority, B, everyone doing their own thing, C, miscommunication and generational gaps, D, keeping everyone engaged and not bored. Okay, so remember whether you answered A, B, C, or D. Now, my dear participants, the time came for you to understand whether you are operating as a boomer, Xer, millennial, or Gen Z. If your most answers were A, you operate as a boomer. If most of your answers were B, you operate as an Xer. If most of your answers were C, you think and operate as a millennial. If most of your answers were D, you operate as a person coming from Generation Z. That's just for fun to see whether you are representative of your generation, or maybe you are behind, or maybe you are generation ahead, or maybe you don't have a style. Maybe you adjust your style, and that's a confirmation that you can actually do it because you do different things in different situations. It's 12:03, so I just want to thank you very much for this engaging discussions. Thank you. And I really would love for us to have more time, but the time to say goodbye has just come.
So maybe in conclusion, I could just say that we looked at how different generations approach work, communication, feedback, and how understanding those differences can help build stronger, more collaborative teams. And my advice, following Aneta's inspirational webinar, would be don't aim to fix it. Don't aim to fix generational gaps. Instead, leverage them and use the differences more as fuel for innovation, mentoring, understanding, mutual growth of the organization. So thanks again for joining the session. If you have any follow-up questions, ideas, or just want to keep the conversation going, please feel free to reach out to us, both Aneta, myself, or MFC team. We'll be happy to respond to your inquiries. Thank you, Aneta, for this really great opportunity of working with you, and really inspiring messages about working with multi-generational teams. Thank you, MFC, for putting Joanna and Olivia for putting everything together, and thank you all participants for very active, very interactive webinar, for your questions and for sharing your experience. Have a great day, and yes, here is to building teams that learn across generations, not in spite of them, but because of them.
Build bridges. Thank you.
Build bridges.
It was very nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.